Hello and welcome. My name is Reed, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to show you how to potentially save $50 on your car battery. I live in the northern USA, and we're currently in fall going into winter, and one day I went to start up my car and it didn't start. And so I went to check on, with my voltmeter, check on the charge that was on the battery, and it turned out it had just about 10 volts on the battery. So I knew automatically because of that, that was the reason that my car didn't start. So I tried to recondition the battery. I went to look at how much water was in the cells, because if the electrolytic fluid gets low on each of the individual battery cells, that can lead to poor performance of the battery. So I went to check on that. Turned out none of the fluid was very low. I had some water that I did refill some of the cells with, but they weren't really that low. I also tried using my battery minder, which has a desulfator. I put it on there for several days, and the battery performance didn't drastically improve. The charge still fell just by sitting from the internal resistance of the battery itself. And so then I finally brought it to my local auto parts store. They have like a charger that's a little more beefy, has some extra features as well. And it turned out that their system said that my battery was a bad battery in the end. And so what I ended up doing was I knew I needed a new battery. But I went to the store, and when I went to the store, I saw that my battery, the exact model that came out of my vehicle, was $150. Luckily, all car batteries are 12 volts, and so I knew that I could swap out my battery with any of the other ones on the shelf within reason. The two things that you're going to want to look for when switching out a battery that isn't exactly the same as your model is the cold cranking amps, or the cranking amps, which is just how many amps that a specific battery can put out within a matter of time. And that's the peak power that the car can draw from the battery at a given moment. And the other thing to look for with your battery is obviously the size. Will that battery physically fit in your vehicle? Now, if these two are very similar, they have similar dimensions and similar power output capabilities, then this battery might be able to fit in your car. And you might ask, well, why would you want to switch it out with something that's a little bit different than the manufacturer calls for? And in my case, the reason for that is because it was $50 cheaper to go to a very, very similar battery that was just a little different, but that battery is much more common. At least that's the logic that I give to it, is that the reason that this battery is so much cheaper is because the manufacturers produce so much more, and so economies of scale can kick in, and yeah, hopefully that battery, it was just cheaper than the exact battery that my car calls for, which I guess is more expensive, probably because it's a little bit more rare or exotic. And so I picked up a slightly different battery. To be specific, my vehicle already had a Group 59 battery in it, and the battery that I looked at, that I was able to identify, that was a very similar size, had actually even more cranking amp output, was a type or Group 58R. So my Group 59 battery was $150 at Walmart, and a Group 58R battery, which has a very similar capacity, was only $100 at Walmart. And so obviously, if I could make it fit in my vehicle, I would want to choose the $100 battery. And so that's what I did. I bought the Group 58R battery and was able to make it fit in my vehicle. One of the main differences between my old battery and the new battery that I purchased is that the height is quite a bit taller on my old battery, which isn't an issue. If you're going height-wise, if you're decreasing the height on your new battery, then you'll have even more clearance from the top of your car hood, so that shouldn't be an issue. The other difference, and really the main difference, was that the position of the electrodes was flipped. So the positive terminal was in the opposite position as my old battery. And I was able to overcome this challenge by simply just stretching my battery cables, the cables that connected my battery to the car electrical system. I just stretched them a little bit further than they were originally, and so it all fit. It just ended up stretching those cables just a little bit further, which really shouldn't be an issue in the long run. And so if your car requires a slightly different battery than just the most typical average batteries that are being produced today, and your battery is a little bit more expensive than the normal car battery, you might be able to get it cheaper just by looking for a slightly different battery than the model that came out of your vehicle. But of course, in any case, what you want to do is if your battery can be reconditioned or the same battery you have can be improved, the life of it can be improved in any way, then you're going to want to do that because that will save you even more money in the long run. If anybody in the comments can think of any other ways that I could have saved the life of my battery, made it last a little bit longer, then feel free to drop that in the comments. I would love to hear about that. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Bye.